Hey, you're hanging out in the Link Up Lounge. I'm Tiffany Mason.
And I'm Donna Ruppel. Around here, we believe success isn't just about what you know, it's about who you link up with. This is your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities.
Donna, it blows my mind that the two of us have over 30 years of combined networking experience.
I know! We've built businesses, expanded networks, and created unstoppable momentum, all through the power of strategic connections.
AKA networking. And now we're here to guide you to do the same, starting today.
So let's dive in, connect, and start making moves you didn't even know were possible. Welcome back to the Link Up Lounge. I'm Donna Ruppel, your Nagati real estate expert, and I'm here with my co-host Tiffany Mason of Virtually You, the boutique podcast management agency.
This is your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities. And today we're talking about something almost everyone struggles with at networking events, small talk. You know, those conversations that stay stuck at what do you do and never really go anywhere.
Yeah, surface level conversations rarely create memorable connections.
Sometimes they're memorable, but in a bad way.
Right? I was going to say, and you never really feel good about it. Like, you're like, that was awkward. Okay.
Yeah.
But the good news is that sometimes all it takes is really asking better questions.
Exactly. So today we're sharing 5 questions that help conversations feel more natural, meaningful, and memorable without sounding forced or overly serious.
A lot of people think being good at networking means being outgoing. We've talked about this in previous episodes. We have episode 38. That's sort of the difference between extroverts and introverts in networking. But we just talked about this kind of a little bit in our last episode too. But you don't need to be outgoing or naturally charismatic to be successful at networking. But honestly, some of the best networkers are simply great at asking thoughtful questions. That is the key.
Maybe they're not even really good at asking thoughtful questions. They just have, 3 in their back pocket that they can just pull out at any time. And it just sounds like, so hopefully that's what we're going to do for you guys today. You guys are going to learn these questions and you are going to help people to open up a little bit differently than you have in the past. The conversations are going to become less surfacey or less fake and more like a connection. Like you actually got to know the person. Instead of feeling like an interview or an elevator pitch exchange, it will feel a little bit more human. It'll feel a little bit more natural and authentic.
Yeah. I like to think about it like talking to a teenager a little bit. And if you have a teenager, you're going to understand what I'm saying. But, when you ask a teenager a yes or no question, your answer is going to be a one-word answer, right?
Yes.
If you ask them a question that requires them to provide a sentence, you get a very different response, So networking is very similar in that sense, because if you just ask somebody a very simple where they can give you like a one-word answer, that may be all you get, because maybe they're nervous, or maybe they're an introvert, or maybe they just feel uncomfortable, or maybe they're just trying to really answer the question you asked and that only called for one word. So really, when you have a connection that's built on curiosity, most people are craving real conversation, especially in rooms where everyone's trying to sound polished or impressive or pitchy. A lot of people would cherish a real conversation.
It's so refreshing.
Right?
So Donna, I have a question for you. What has been exciting you lately?
Honestly, with all the new shifts in technology, with AI and all kinds of platforms, there's a whole suite of things that as a real estate agent, we are able to do without so much time commitment. And that has been shifting where I can focus my business.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you guys, the listener, what do you think a podcast manager has in connection with a realtor? Other than a podcast manager could make a podcast for a realtor. But we didn't pre-rehearse that. I literally just asked her on the spot. And I already got excited to have a conversation with her about AI. Now, Donna and I are friends. We have conversations about a lot of things, but I was already feeling myself wanting to be like, okay, ditch the podcast episode. Tell me about the AI thing. Like, how are you using it in your capacity? And then I can talk about how I am using it in my capacity. So
Yeah.
I hope that that's a perfect example of how you guys can ask a question to somebody, what's been exciting you lately? And they start to share something and you go, oh, and in the last episode, we talked about the Ford method. And in this situation, she would be talking about
Yeah.
her occupation, and I would find the common ground, and it would lead into this very natural connection, not this forced interview of
Right.
sorts.
Yeah. I do love this question because it immediately shifts people out of their autopilot, rehearsed power statement, pitch introduction. Instead, it's giving a real answer about something that, especially if they're excited, you're going to see that they're going to start talking faster. Maybe they are using their hands more,
Yeah.
and they're starting to get a lot of excitement going, and you can tell like, oh wow, they're really passionate about this, or they're really excited about
I
it,
mean, I was ready to ditch the whole episode just to talk to you about AI quick.
Yeah, I mean, I like that question because it usually opens somebody up pretty easily to talk about something that they're excited about. And again, that is something that I use with my kids, like that are all in college, right? And I'll say, "What's really exciting you lately?" or "What is something you're really getting into now?" And just hearing them talk about it so much more than, "Are you doing good?" "Yep." "Is everything okay?" "Yep."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you can learn so much more from their answer. Maybe they're launching something new, maybe they're working on a passion project, or finally feeling momentum in their business. That's kind of a fun one to share with people.
Yeah,
People light
absolutely.
up differently when they talk about excitement instead of obligation. And when you say what's lighting you up, then you're thinking about the things that are exciting. I also love nothing more than when somebody replies, oh, haha, while they're thinking, they're like, oh, that's a great question. I'm like, yes, I am a great question asker. Then this person is very excited to answer the question.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and the reality is people love to talk about themselves, right? So it's easy for the most part. And once they've shared all about themselves, all about whatever the thing that they've talked about, they just might want to know about you.
Yeah. I mean, especially like in that example that we provided, if you're like all excited to hear about how the AI is being used in my business, and you talk about, yeah, because in my business I do AI and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm learning about your business without
Hmm.
you pitching your business. I'm learning about how you're using AI and what you do. And wow, that's fascinating. So you do all that. Okay. Like that's good to know, because if I have no idea what a podcast manager does,
Yeah.
now I've just gotten a glimpse into it when it's not pitchy, it's not rehearsed, it's not
Yeah.
salesy at all. We're both just two people, two entrepreneurs connecting over something new in our world that we're excited about.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah. And I think also if you weren't into AI, just maybe hearing like, well, what does it do for you? And, me opening up about that, it might open a new thought for you to go home and look into what AI tools are available for your industry. And again, that's one of the unspoken pluses of networking. I mean, you learn so much from what is working for somebody else just by having those types of conversations.
Yep.
The second question is, how did you get into what you do?
This question is a great one because it actually opens the door to stories. And stories create connections so much faster than titles do. Like if I say, what do you do? Oh, I'm a realtor. But how did you get into what you're doing? Now that's a different conversation. So most people have this journey kind of behind it, and I just find people so fascinating. And I think that's why I love networking so much, because the whole name of the game is go ask some questions and learn more about these people. But our lived experiences shape so much of what we think we can do, what we want to do, all those kind of things. So I love the journey behind it. And when they share it, you get to know the human behind the business.
Mhm.
And, sometimes people are like, why do I have to be on my social media? Because people want to see who the talking head is. People want
Mhm.
to see who you are. They want to see your personality. Are you kind of their vibe? And speaking of people who like to talk about themselves, current company, check. I think it's kind of funny of how I got into my job. And when people ask me, I never know like how many details to give or, how in depth to give. And I suppose they ask the follow up questions if they really want more details. But I had a job. I hated it. I started listening to a podcast called Don't Keep Your Day Job. And you know what? I ended up in podcasting.
I didn't know
So,
that. I didn't know that it came from listening to a podcast called Don't Keep Your Day Job. I
yeah,
had
yeah,
no idea about that. That's
yeah.
fascinating.
Yep, we're all learning something about each other. See, guys, these in-depth conversations. Had we not talked about how we got into what we did, you guys would never know. Donna would never
Right.
know. But that is kind of just it, right? Like you wouldn't know those things about that person. You wouldn't know what they did in their former life that pushed them into what they're doing currently. So I love that question. And I love that it gives you an opportunity to learn more about them and possibly connect on something different.
Yes, absolutely. And usually those stories reveal shared experiences or values, struggles, or passions that create a much deeper connection than the surface level small talk ever could. It's always great to hear how somebody got into their line of work. And, it typically comes from something like dissatisfaction in a different industry or somebody that they look up to in their current industry leading them into it. It's just fascinating to hear how people found what they do.
Well, and I know a connection point for me, like I'm just going to call a spade a spade. I'm kind of a fan of when someone shows a crack, then I feel like, I don't know, like I can trust them or I can
Right.
connect with them. If they're perfect and everything's perfect and they love their job and they love their house life and they love every hobby that they've ever done ever and everything's just coming up roses for them, I'm going to move on. I'm not
Right.
probably going to hang out and chit chat with you because
Right.
my life is not all rainbows and butterflies. And I mean, I don't know what to say. Misery loves company, I guess. I don't know. But
Right.
I want to
It
connect on
makes
a
it feel
real.
like disingenuous. Like they're not being
Yes.
real. Yeah.
Yes, because
Yeah.
the reality is nobody has it all together. And so
Right.
it's kind of nice when someone can say like, let your guard down and I guess maybe expose a little bit of trust. Like you
Mm-hmm.
trusted me to tell me that you didn't love your previous job and you
Right.
trusted me to say the company name or to say because it was your boss or whatever tidbit you're willing to share just provides a little bit of trust and you go, okay, they shared one thing like you don't want to share your struggle with someone who's got it all together.
Right.
And also, if you're going to be a collaborative partner, I think you have to be able to say, like, hey, I'm really struggling on my marketing. Could you help me with X, Y, or Z? Because it looks like you've really got it figured out. I think
Yeah.
that's another value of just being honest that everything is not amazing all the time.
Yes. 100%. So, Tiffany, tell me, what are you focused on right now?
That is a great question, Donna. Is that our third question?
It is.
Okay, so third question, what are you focused on? I am currently focused on a little bit of, I don't know if I'm calling it rebranding or an identity shift
Mm.
or what exactly, but I've got some big changes that I'm working on and trying to decide on a new logo and brand colors and all kinds of things. So
Wow.
lots of changes coming my way.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That
Mhm,
does sound
mhm,
exciting.
mhm.
So, if you told me that in a networking setting, then I would immediately want to follow up with questions asking a little bit more detail because I want to show that I'm listening to you, that I heard you, and that I'm curious. So, I'd probably follow up with, what's prompting the big shift or what direction are you taking your business in that's different than where you were or, something like that.
Yeah, and I think I love first of all, I love that that's where your mind goes with it, like, let me ask some follow-up questions. I think there's also an opportunity potentially in there where they're saying all these things and you could even offer to support them. Like, "Hey, I've been there, I've kind of gone through a transition like that. How could I help you? What's something you're struggling with? If you can't figure out X, Y, or Z, I'm happy to help." Something to that extent too, just to kind of build that relationship even more. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, absolutely. Or like, when you're talking about rebranding and new logo, then what comes to my mind is are you doing this yourself? Are you brainstorming through Canva? Or are you working with somebody that's helping you create all this stuff?
Yeah,
Because in
yeah.
my mind, as we've talked about in previous episodes, I like being a connector. right? So
Yeah.
if you're open to working with somebody who's going to help you create a new logo and a new image and new branding and new marketing, then I've got a referral for you. But if you're like, no, I'm playing around on Canva, I really love doing this, it's like opens my creative brain and I really get into it, then I'm not going to mess with that because I know how that is too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think that question, what are you focused on right now, works really well because it keeps the conversation current and relevant. Like, right now, what are you doing? It also gives insight into what somebody actually needs for support, like I was saying, in that season of life or business. And I especially love this question because it gets me going through my imaginary Rolodex and thinking of like, who could I refer to them? Kind of like what you were
Mm-hmm.
saying, Donna. Or it gets
Mm-hmm.
my creative juices going, like, how could we collaborate? Like I was saying, how can I support them? How can I see them
Yeah.
through this transition or whatever? So, or whatever they're focused on right now.
Yeah, and honestly, this is where opportunities often happen naturally. I mean, maybe you know a resource, a connection, or an idea that could genuinely help them.
Yeah, I completely agree. Which brings us to the fourth question. What is something you've learned recently that's changed the way you think?
That is such a good question because it creates depth super fast.
Mm-hmm.
People usually pause before answering. I mean, I would. I'd be like, "Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
that's a
Dig
good
deep.
one." Yeah, and that pause is good. It means they're thinking instead of defaulting to that autopilot script pitch that they had in their mind. It's making them really actually think about something deep and have a conversation about it, and that often makes them sound like their true selves.
Yeah. It often leads to conversations that people actually remember too. Because if
Mhm.
I ask you, you know, what's something that you've learned that's recently changed the way that you think? I mean, maybe it's a podcast or a book or a person I need
Mhm.
to follow,
Right?
so I'm going to remember that. And honestly, if it really was happening in real time, I'd probably have my phone out taking notes. So, like when I get in the car, I can follow the podcast, or when I get in the car, I can listen to some of the posts from that person.
Right.
So, because at that point, you're moving from the networking mode to real perspective sharing, really what's
Right.
going on, really what did you learn? And maybe I'm looking for that kind of mindset shift, or I'm looking for that kind of platform to start utilizing in my business. So that's probably one of my favorites from this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. It's very deep.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it can't be like, that's changed your way of thinking. And you're like, yeah, AI. No, that's not.
No,
Nope.
this is where you get good recommendations for books or podcasts or
Yeah.
people to follow or whatever. Yeah, and again, like you said, I definitely want to write those down, or I'll say, "Hey, do you
Mm,
mind texting that to me really quick?"
yeah.
Because I also then have a way of connection, which is nice.
Oops. Oops. And by the way, did you want to grab coffee?
Right. Thanks for sending me the book. What's up? Do you want to go get coffee? Yeah.
We could talk about the book, and then we could talk about how we could collaborate.
Right? Yes.
Okay, Donna, are you ready for the fifth and final question?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I know y'all are on the edge of your seat. What is something you're looking forward to?
I love this question. And what's beautiful about this question is that it allows people to talk about hope, goals, excitement. It could be family, travel, growth of their business. I mean, whatever feels meaningful to them. I love that question because you can also tell if they're still in business mode or if they're
Yeah.
willing to expand this to really what they're excited about in life, right? So I love when people talk about something that they're really looking forward to because you see the passion come out, sort of like in the first question. You see their passion come out, you see their excitement light up, you see that they get to their genuine selves very quickly with a question like that.
I love the word genuine. I was thinking authentic, but I think genuine is where I would rather go. I think this question, when they start talking about, dreams, hopes, desires, hobbies, whatever that is, they've dropped their guard. They're no
Mhm.
longer feeling like the other person is in sales mode. They're feeling like, okay, we're making a connection, we're learning about one another, and let's start a relationship, a friendship of sorts in a business respect.
Yes, exactly.
Because, it's easy for networking conversations to be stuck in productivity and business performance. But this question helps them to remind us that they're human, that they have other things going on in their life that affect business decisions, or we're all whole people. We all have
Right.
families. We all have things that we like and enjoy. And I think this helps us to genuinely connect with them on a deeper level.
And as you've said numerous times before in our episodes, but people remember how conversations make them feel. And
Mhm.
so if someone leaves a conversation feeling lighter, encouraged, or genuinely seen, that connection sticks. They're going to remember you.
Well, and I know we're talking about asking questions, but let's also talk about answering the question. So, if you're feeling like this person genuinely wants to connect with you, I know it's so easy to think like, okay, I just came from, my dentist appointment, got my teeth cleaned, and now I'm at this networking event, and pretty soon I have to go back to the office and get on that Zoom call or whatever. I think
Hmm.
it's important that when you're in a networking scenario that you are present and give it the attention that it deserves. So when that
Hmm.
person asks you, I don't think that they're not asking with an agenda probably. They're asking because they're like, I like this person. I want to get to know them better. And so the way I can do that is with these open-ended questions, try to connect with them on a different level other than what we've already established, this business aspect. Maybe there's another area that we have a common interest.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because so often you are fitting a networking event in between your workday. And sometimes you are excited to go for the break, and sometimes you really don't want to go, but you already signed up, or your boss is making you go, or whatever the case may be. And so, really all you're doing is shortchanging yourself if you are not
Yeah.
present. You're just,
Don't just go through the motions.
yeah, why are you even there? Because if you're not present enough to try and connect, then you're not going to find success. You're not going to walk away with a good, connection made. So that is a really important part for sure of going, being fully present, committing to the time you've already given it, and do what you're there to do, which is connect with people.
Yep, connect and be present, and that's why good networking is less about all your accolades and all these, impressive things, and more about creating space for meaningful conversation.
You definitely do not need to be the most interesting person in the room to build strong connections. And sort of as you mentioned earlier, if you are flawlessly perfect, my guess is I'm not going to feel any type of deep connection with you because I'm going to be like, you're not even really being yourself. You're still in this sort of pretend mode. And that to me says, I don't know how long it's going to take for you to break down and be yourself. And
Mhm.
we only have so much time at this networking event. So I'm not sure I'm going to get there. Maybe the next
Yeah,
time I see you, we can dive a little deeper. But
yeah.
some people take multiple meetups before you really can crack that veneer and see who they really are. Other people are pretty open to be themselves right away. And so figuring that out is another layer of the skill of networking, I would say.
Yes, often people who leave the biggest impact are the people who make other people feel heard. They're not performing, they're focused on being present and being curious.
Yeah. I mean, one thoughtful question can completely change the direction of a conversation and sometimes even a relationship.
Yeah. Okay, guys, it's time for networking mode on. This week's networking mode on tip: at your next event, challenge yourself to ask at least one question goes beyond, what do you do? Watch how quickly the energy in the conversation changes. Networking mode on.
If you try one of these questions this week, tag us on Instagram at @the_linkup lounge and tell us which one sparked the best conversation. We would also love to hear reviews. So if you have a chance, drop us a review. Let's keep building those powerful links together. You've been hanging out in the Link Up Lounge, your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities.
Now it's your turn. Go make a powerful link today.
Networking mode on.